Good Friday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversation Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Well, we made it to the end of another week. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up on this Friday. We have a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. And in today's Entertainment Spotlight, you've been part of my conversation with Lindsay Powers of Amazon Books, discussing their 2022 best books so far. You don't want to miss that. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with their Friday headlines. In international news, leaders pledge arms and EU path for Ukraine and Kyiv visit. 4 European leaders expressed their support for Ukraine on Thursday while meeting with President Zelensky, vowing to back Kyiv's candidacy to eventually join the European Union and offering more weapons to fend off Russia's invasion. The French president promised Ukraine 6 more truck-mounted artillery guns, the latest in a new round of Western arms pledges as the war grinds in the Donbass region in the east. France, Germany, Italy, and Romania are doing everything so that Ukraine alone can decide its fate, Macron said at a news conference with Zelensky and others. My colleagues and I have come here to Kyiv today with a clear message. Ukraine belongs to the European family, said the German chancellor. Amid Ukrainian fears that Western resolve could wane, the visit carried heavy symbolism. France, Germany, and Italy have all faced criticism for continuing to engage with Russian President Putin and failing to give Kyiv the amount of weaponry it says it needs. Macron defended earlier comments that riled Ukrainians about not humiliating Russia. He solemnly noted how the end of World War I has sown the seeds of World War II. We are side by side today by the Chancellor. 100 years ago, we were at war and Allies helped France win. France committed a historic mistake. It lost the peace because it wanted to humiliate Germany. The question of humiliation I always place in context to come, not the current context, he said. Today this war must be won. France clearly supports Ukraine, so it prevails, Macron said. Germany, like France, will never be in situations where they negotiate on Ukraine's behalf with Russia. Moreover, we have never done that. Ukrainian and some of their Central European neighbors also have been afraid that Western powers might press for territorial concessions for the sake of peace with Russia. The leaders also visited a Kyiv suburb that saw intense fighting early in the war and where many civilians were killed. They decried the destruction there, with Macron saying he saw signs of war crimes. In business news, Wall Street gets back to tumbling after one-day reprieve. Markets worldwide were tumbling on Thursday. Wall Street was down nearly 3% in a widespread wipeout as worries about a fragile economy roared back to the fore. The S&P 500 was 3.1% lower in afternoon trading, more than reversing its blip of a 1.5% rally from a day before. Analysts had warned of more big swings given deep uncertainties about whether the Federal Reserve and other central banks can tiptoe the narrow path of interest rate hikes enough to get inflation under control, but not so much that they cause a recession. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 687 points, or 2.2%. The Nasdaq Composite went down 3.9% lower. In national news, January 6th panel says Pence rejecting Biden win would be un-American. The January 6th committee on Thursday plunged into Donald Trump's last-ditch efforts to salvage the 2020 election by pressuring Vice President Mike Pence to defy historical precedent and reject the electoral count in the run-up to the U.S. Capitol riot. With 2 witnesses Thursday, including Pence's counsel, the House panel made the case that Trump's false claims of a fraudulent election left him grasping for alternatives as courts turned back dozens of lawsuits challenging the vote. Trump latched onto a conservative law professor's obscure plan and launched a public and private pressure campaign on Pence days before the vice president was to preside over the January 6th joint session of Congress to certify Joe Biden's electoral win. A federal judge has said it is more likely than not Trump committed crimes in his attempt to stop the certification. In more national news, fewer Americans applied for jobless aid last week. Fewer Americans applied for unemployment benefits last week as the U.S. job market remains strong in the face of rising inflation and interest rates. Applications for jobless aid fell by 3,000 to 229,000 for the week ending June 11th, down from the previous week's 232,000, the Labor Department reported on Thursday. First-time applications generally represent the number of layoffs. The 4-week average for claims, which evens out some of the week-to-week volatility, rose by 2,750 from the previous week to 218,500. And finally, in entertainment news, Beyoncé announces new album Renaissance to drop July 29th. Beyoncé has revealed the title and release date for her next studio album, with the 16-track Renaissance set to drop July 29th. The superstar began listing the music and products on her website Thursday, and several streaming services, including Tidal and Spotify, also announced the Beyoncé release. Beyoncé tipped off fans that something important was coming when she removed her profile photos across all her social media platforms last week. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's on time for a message from my book, Words That Choose to Live By. Enjoy. Good Friday, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Words That Choose to Live By with Cyrus Webb. There is nothing like waking up and knowing that you are not an accident. You were created with real value and purpose ordained before you were born. Instead of spending the day feeling sorry for yourself, realize that the life you are living is a living testament of what is possible. Look deep inside yourself and recognize how valuable you are. Have an amazing Friday. Lindsay Powers of Amazon Books is featured in today's Entertainment Spotlight. We're here at Conversations Daily News. For Conversations Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Lindsay Powers of Amazon Books joined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about their 2022 best books so far. Here's a bit of our conversation.
First of all, what was it like for you guys to be able to share this list with the world this year, Lindsay?
Well, the Amazon Book Review team, we're super excited to present it, and we joke that we came to it by good old-fashioned fighting. We really, we read thousands of books to narrow down the top 20 so far, of course, published before the end of June. And we have a couple of prerequisites before we come to it. We want wonderful writing is number one. It has to be great from the first page to the last page. And we really want books that are going to tell a compelling story, and that as soon as you finish the last page, you're going to pick up your phone and call a friend, text a friend, just books that we really can't stop talking about.
And Lindsay, this list is really diverse as well. As I mentioned, Saba's book as well as Neil's book,
right.
Two totally different genres, for sure. How much fun was that for you guys to bring your own love of variety to this list, too?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, there's 9 of us on the team. We each kind of specialize in nonfiction or mystery, thrillers, and suspense, or literary fiction, but we all read so widely, and we all just champion books from different writers and different stories. And 6 of the top 10 authors are debut authors, which we thought was so cool. And also, of the top 10 authors, all are women, which was fascinating to us because we certainly did not set out to do that. That just happened to be how it shook out after we kind of finished our debates and fighting. And even though, of course, they're all for women, there's really, they're not just books for women. These are books that I think will relate to so many different people and readers.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Conversations Daily News. We'll have you guys on Monday with more news, message from my book, Words That Choose to Live By, and of course, your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Now let's go make it a great one.